What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Breakdown Podcast. Nick Faribaugh here talking with you guys. Today's a little different today, of course, a little bit of awkward timing, so we don't have much practice to talk about. We talked about yesterday's practice. We'll talk today more about kind of the overall feel of camp, issues, standouts, positives. We'll keep it 100 here. Friday Night Lights will come there tonight. I'll make sure to have a Steelers training camp rewind up for you guys as well later. But first, we will talk just overall about camp. I think sometimes when you go day to day and talk a lot about things, you can get lost in the sauce a little bit, if you will. And so I want to talk about things like what's going on the offensive line. And I think this is actually the most concerning thing for me so far because a lot of the patterns, I know it's early, still only week 2, but a lot of the patterns are lining up similarly to last year. And what I mean by that is Troy Fautanu, while taking some first team reps, hasn't taken a ton of first team reps. More than that, Broderick Jones hasn't played much at left tackle at all. Dan Moore's played a lot at left tackle. But even more than that, when it's not Broderick Jones at right tackle and Troy Fautanu steps in, who steps up at left tackle? It's been more often than not Dan Moore. Folks, this is leaning towards Dan Moore potentially being a starter. And things aren't obviously set in stone in that regard, but Troy Fautanu and Broderick Jones have not played much together. If that is going to be the lineup in week 1, man, Broderick Jones better be extremely comfortable on the left side because he's not gotten much playing time there. He's played mostly at right tackle. Troy Fautanu stepped up for him, and then Dan Moore has stuck at left tackle. So right now, I mean, Dan Moore certainly looks like a guy that will start at left tackle. Nate Herbig is taking all the first team reps at center. Zach Frazier has not taken any first team reps, unlike Fautanu, who has taken first team reps. So offensive line's a little bit in flux, but I think it's the tackle situation that's more concerning. I do think Zach Frazier will start week. Nate Herbig's had a nice camp. Zach Frazier, though, is not only the future of that position for the Steelers, he's also someone that is just kind of growing and starting to become what you thought he was, right? At first, I was whelmed. The last 2-3 days, he started to play well. So I think we are going to see him start. And when we look at this tackle situation, they've talked all the time about will Broderick Jones move to left tackle? Yes, he will move to left tackle eventually, but they won't give a timeline on it. Next year seems to be the logical kind of end point of that. It seems like he would move over there. But there's no guarantee of that, right? And so there's no guarantee it happens this year. And that, in my opinion, is a question mark. What are they doing necessarily with Broderick Jones, a guy that is not a natural right tackle? I talk a lot about native positions on the offensive line. I am still a big believer of putting guys at the position they are most comfortable in. And Broderick Jones told me at the end of last season he was more comfortable at left than right. He would still say that. And so I really think he should be on the left side. Troy Fautanu is probably one of those rare guys that can flip through different spots. There are some guys that can do it. There are others that can't. Dan Moore, for example, can't play on the right side. He can only play on the left side. I think Troy Fautanu can do both. So you have a guy there. But that offensive line, man, you have to, in my opinion, get this down. Troy Fautanu and Broderick Jones should be the starting duo in week 1. But the signs aren't pointing that way right now. So I have questions of what's going on there. And if over the next few weeks, we will see Broderick Jones start to trickle in at left tackle more, or if we're going to see Dan Moore continue to go. Because right now, the plan doesn't make much sense to me right now, I think, if you're trying to have the best version of your offensive line, which I don't think it will be if Dan Moore is in the starting lineup personally. You look also, I think, across this team, and you see a lot of battles that are playing out differently than that. I think, when you're a first round pick like Troy Fautanu is, it seems like Mike Tomlin handles rookies with care, right? Peyton Wilson's going to play right away, though. He's going to have a dime backer role. He's going to, play as the dime linebacker. He's going to play probably a nickel a little bit. Cole Holcomb's probably not going to be ready. So there's going to be guys that are going to play. I think Roman Wilson, even though he is going to miss time with injury, probably will play pretty early on still. And so I think Zach Frazier will too. And if that happens, I think you look at the management of Fautanu and it's a little curious. I don't think he's a guy that needs to sit and watch to learn. He's a pretty polished player. So I think that's what they should be doing. I'll keep a close eye on it over the next 2 to 3 weeks to see kind of how this starts to play out. I think how it starts to play out specifically after the Texans game is going to be pretty important to seeing where the Steelers head at and where they want this thing to go on the offensive line. But across the team, there are some battles where it seems like we have willingness, I don't know what that means, but willingness to kind of change what they're doing. Nick Herbig, for example, playing at off ball a little bit, using his fluidity. Beanie Bishop is a guy that's UDFA came in. Seems like he's destined to start, man. He keeps playing at a high level. Not much concern on the defensive side. And so really my concerns mostly lie on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, you can poke holes on the depth of the secondary, I think, on the defensive side, but I also think, Corey Trace is just starting to get back into the thick of things. I think you've seen Ryan Watts have a solid camp. I think safety wise, I think they're fine. I think DeMonte Casey will be a solid third safety for them. I think Deshaun Elliott is going to be a good running mate for Minkah Fitzpatrick. And then I've been really impressed by Dante Jackson. And Beanie Bishop continues to play well. So they have a lot of options in that secondary, it seems like. And the depth guys like Darius Rush, Corey Trice, and others are going to be the ones to really focus on. On the overview of this too, I guess you can't help but not mention the quarterback situation, which is, the longer Russell Wilson doesn't participate fully in team, that door does necessarily crack open for Justin Fields at the very least. He has the opportunity to make a mark, to make a stamp to the coaching staff of what he can do. And so they have been able to design the offense and kind of investigate Justin Fields' tendencies in a way they wouldn't have. And so it's kind of interesting when you actually look at this battle because it's going to help them go and game plan for Justin Fields during the season because they know him more and they know his weaknesses and his strengths. So I think it's going to help the Steelers actually, if Justin Fields ever does start this year, just kind of get right to it. I think they know a little bit more now. So there's a lot going in this camp. I think a few things that are really standing out. The DBs are playing well. I think the D line depth looks really good. Marvin Leal, Martravius Adams are having really nice camps. Keanu Benton, I think, is a breakout star. I've long said that. And I think, wide receiver is going to be something that we're going to have to figure out. I think they'll add somebody there, but Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson are having nice camps. So that's nice. I feel like they have guys that can be that 3-4 type. I think they have three of them. I truly believe Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, and Robin Wilson can give you kind of wide receiver 3 production. It's just can one of them step up as the 2 or can they find someone? We'll see kind of how that coalesces. But right now, biggest concern outside of the obvious, what happens in wide receiver is what in the world is going on at offensive tackle. And so I think Troy Fautanu needs to start playing more with Broderick Jones. Brock Jones needs to start playing more at left tackle if they're going to be serious about that being a starting duo in week 1 in Atlanta. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching Steelers Breakdown. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. If you are listening to this, make sure to leave a review. Be back on Monday talking Pittsburgh Steelers football.